It does the heart good to be part of a community that is talking, it is alive, it is breathing. And in it, God is saying, behold, I am doing a new thing. So I want you to do me a favor, Anthem. We've got some people standing at the back, and they don't need to stand. Let's be good hosts. Can you all scoot to the middle of your aisles if there are chairs in your aisles, so that our friends that are coming in or that are still standing in the back can find a seat. We want to welcome you. Welcome home. Happy day 7. Today is the Sabbath, and the word Sabbath means to stop. The actual word means you take a breath, and I know that we all need a breath this week. If you're a student and you just started a new program and you're moving into the area, you need a breath. If you're working and your life has gotten hectic, you need a breath. If you are a parent and your children are making you climb a wall, you need a breath. If you are in a relationship and it's getting tumultuous, you need a breath. And God is saying to you today, this is the opportunity to commence something new. Now here at Anthem, we want to celebrate new beginnings, particularly if this is your first time here. If you are a first-time guest, we want to tell you we love you. We are so hope that you make it your weekly rhythm to worship here with us. We have something special for you if this is your first time here at Anthem. Just across these doors, there is our Growing Disciples Center. Go. We want to know who you are. We want to know how to pray for you. We want to know what some of your challenges are and how we can be a community that supports you. So go over there and just introduce yourself. We'd love to connect. Also, everything that happens here happens because Anthem is not only a community, it is a community of collaboration. And so if you find any meaning and purpose in what we do, we've got some baskets going around where you can actually give. There used to be these things called bills and coins back in the day. If you still carry those, they belong in a museum, but we'll take them, put them in the basket. If you don't, there's a really easy way to give. You can just text Anthem to 55498. That's 55498. And we'd love to partner with you as you give. Now, Praxis is the young adult community here at Loma Linda University Church. And it is a vibrant community. It's a community that is always doing new things. We are in the middle of our 12 weeks of summer with our Praxis community. Today, if it's too hot in the IE, isn't it? Well, if you want to escape the heat, come with us to Bolsa Chica Beach tonight. It is going to be cool. It is going to be fun. It is going to be an opportunity to connect. If you want more information, click on the Praxis Instagram page. We want to also remind you that in 2 weeks from today, August 24, 7 p.m., all of our community, Anthem, Sanctuary, we're meeting together to play some sports and have our Drayson night. Enjoy. Hope you come out for that. Also, we want you to get involved. All of this worship happens because you are participating in it. So if somebody greeted you today, that's somebody that has volunteered to do that. Our musicians here behind us, they are volunteers. The people at the cafe that are providing the awesome drinks you're having, they're volunteers. We have a prayer team that is going to step up here at the end of the service that wants to pray with you. They are volunteers. If you want to get involved, we'd love for you to participate. You can go on our website and sign up, and we'd love to partner with you. We're going to move into the spoken word now. And it's a message as part of our camp meeting that deals with learning how to slow down in the midst of our frantic lives. But before we do that, can I invite you to talk to God with me? God, we come to you hard pressed and tired. And we hear the sweet voice of Jesus saying, "Come unto me, all those who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." So as we hear your words, the gospel anew, may it bring rest for our weary souls, for we pray in your name. Amen.
This part I don't measure. My name is Wendy Ray and I do gluten-free baking. I think one of my passions in this is that I really love helping and teaching people who have been diagnosed or have a family member who has a celiac or a gluten intolerance or something, and really helping them understand that it's not a fad, and if they have celiacs, it actually kills part of the lining of their stomach. How to not cross-contaminate, how you can support your body through it. I love helping people feel like they can get some control of their life back. You can make decisions for yourself, it's not just everybody else. It feels like it's taken a very long time, and it has. It's been about 10 years of me baking and trying things and things not working out, and things still don't work out, but then I just keep tweaking them. The milk has to be at a certain temperature for the yeast to react correctly. So when I was 21, I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, and I had several surgeries for it. And then when I was about 27, they told me my hormones were so off that I couldn't have kids without help. And so I just went off of everything. And then my sister had told me about an article she had read about people with endometriosis doing better when they went off gluten. And so I was like, I'll do anything at this point. So before, only morphine would ever take my pain away. And after 6 weeks of being gluten-free, I could take ibuprofen and I was okay. When I ended up having to do a gluten-free diet, I got kind of tired of everything tasting like cardboard. When Scotty and I got married and I started doing some more baking, we lived in Boston for a couple of years while he was in grad school, and I was alone a lot. So I would bake. I got my degree in nutrition, pregnant with my daughter Daisy, and I was trying to build a clientele, and then we started making plans for a gluten-free bakery, and then my dad passed away and I couldn't really function. My whole life just crumbled. And then he really wanted to help me with the bakery, so it was just hard. The name of my bakery is called Kindred because I want a place where kindred spirits, people who understand each other, knowing that you're getting something that whoever prepared it fully knows what you need. And then also I changed the spelling from K-I-N for kindred to K-E-N because my dad's name was Ken. Life is an apprenticeship, so the baking is the same. There's trials and there's errors. There's things that aren't gonna work, but I figured out what did work. You know, with gluten-free baking, it takes a very long time. If you are praying and trusting God through the process, every day He teaches me new things and changes my life in ways that I was not expecting. I think just life in general is an apprenticeship. I started baking with Daisy. She was 3.5 and she would want to pour things in. So we started that. And then over the last couple of years, she could start doing the eggs. And I think she enjoys making it and then tasting it and being like, we did this together. And this business is not just for me, it's for everybody else. And I want her to feel a part of it. So it's fun to teach her those things. My least favorite part, I'd have to say, is the dishes.
Amen to that last sentence. Good morning, Anthem. A delight to see you. Just a brief reminder that next Sabbath we'll have an opportunity to express our love, appreciation, and best wishes to Josh and Emily, so we hope that you're a part of that. A couple of weeks or two after that, we'll have an opportunity to talk with you about plans that have, by the grace of God, gelled much more into place and what is next. So thank you for being a part of that with Anthem. I'm going to do something today that I haven't done in my pastoral ministry. Thought about it quite a bit this week and throughout quite a few years now of ministry and preaching. I've never done this. In fact, it's anathema to preachers, and with good reason. I have no text for my sermon. I know what text I want, and I've tried to find that text, but I can't find it. But there's still something I want to say. And so I'm doing something one should never do, and that is say, all right, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and hopefully somebody, one of the bright biblical scholars from Anthem, will tell me at the end, here's the text you're looking for. I haven't been able to find it. It hasn't been for lack of searching. I've sat down with Logos, my Bible software. I've consulted my hard copy of Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. I've used my Bible app on my phone. I've read and reread the Gospels, and I cannot find this text. But I need this text because with this text, I can live the life of discipleship, of apprenticeship, much more naturally in my world. So that's what we're going to do. So we're in this series called Apprentice, the lifelong, life-changing journey with Jesus. And last week we talked about the fact that Jesus calls us on the ordinary days of our lives to life transformation and unknown destinations. Those two words, life transformation, is where we will now spend the rest of our time in this series. Last week was what and why. What? Jesus calls us. Why do we follow? Because he calls us. From this week forward, it's going to be how. How do we follow? How do we apprentice ourselves to Jesus? How does life transformation occur? Thus the text that I need. Now, when you look at it, you may agree with me and say, surely the life of the apprentice has something to do with the speed at which we live our lives. It's no secret to anybody that we live a very fast-paced life in the world, in America, and in particular in Southern California. That's not an announcement that anybody needed. We live hurried lives. But just in case you're wondering, it's been around for a few years. I can remember back years ago singing along with the Alabama song, the country song, I'm in a hurry to get things done. I rush and run till life's no fun. All I really need to do is live and die, but I'm in a hurry and don't know why. That's a life of speed. Or maybe you saw the cartoon online or in the newspaper, one monkey talking to the other saying, you know, after a day in the jungle, it's just a blessing when one of those researchers shoots you with a tranquilizer gun. Or James Thurber, the author, the journalist, who said, humankind is traveling too fast for a round world. Soon we're going to lap ourselves, and when we do, there's going to be a vast rear-end explosion. Or even Jack Ippolito, writing from Tulsa, Oklahoma, of one of those moments in a parent's life when you've kind of just had it, taking kids to school, running late, just like all the other parents, running late, traffic, are we going to make it, pushing, stressing. He came up to a red light, he stopped, and he made a right turn. Just as he did, he caught sight of the sign that said, no right turn on red. As he did that, he said to his daughter in the backseat, oop, I just made an illegal turn. His daughter said, don't worry, Daddy, the policeman behind us just did the same thing. That's it. Rushing, hurrying. We live fast-paced lives. I want to read you the words of John Mark Comer. I read to you from last week from his book, Practicing the Way, exceptional book on discipleship. This week, it's an earlier book of his, possibly even better than Practicing the Way, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. So listen to Comer's words. In spite of our smartphones and programmable coffee pots and dishwashers and laundry machines and toasters, Most of us feel like we have less time, not more. What gives? Labor-saving devices really do save time. So where did all that time go? Answer, we spent it on other things. In the 1960s, futurists all over the world, from sci-fi writers to political theorists, thought that by now we'd all be working way fewer hours. One famous Senate subcommittee, in 1967, was told that by 1985, the average American would work only 22 hours a week for 27 weeks a year. How's that working out for you? Everybody thought the main problem in the future would be too much leisure. What? Are you laughing right now? Yeah, it's funny, kind of. Unless you're French. To all three of my French readers, we mock you, but it's only because we're jealous. The exact opposite has happened. Leisure time has gone down. The average American works nearly 4 more weeks per year than they did in 1979. Harvard Business Review recently conducted a study on the change in social status in America. It used to be that leisure was a sign of wealth. People with more money spent their time playing tennis or sailing in the bay or sipping white wine during lunch at the golf club, but that's changed. Now, busyness is a sign of wealth. You see this cultural shift in advertising. Commercials and magazine ads for luxury items like a Maserati or a Rolex used to show the rich sitting by a pool in the south of France. Now they're more likely to show the wealthy in New York or downtown LA leading a meeting from a high-rise office, going out for late-night drinks at a trendy club, or traveling the world. A century ago, the less you worked, the more status you had. Now it's flipped. The more you sit around and relax, the less status you have. Not surprisingly, over the same time period, we've seen the death of Sabbath in American life. Now, on that topic, Sabbath, stay tuned. A couple months down the road, we're going to do a series on Sabbath. But the rest of what Comer says, the intensity, the stress, the sheer speed of our lives, is an issue. So to live the life of the apprentice, I need a certain text. And I've spent time searching for that text. For what I say today, I need a text. And I haven't been able to find it. But I do have this nagging sense that how we live the life of the apprentice has something to do with the speed of our lives. And so I turn to Jesus. I look at Jesus, try to get a sense of the speed in his life. Now, I don't have the text, but I do have a number of texts, and I want to read several of them to you right now. As we consider the speed of the life that Jesus lived. First was in Mark chapter 1, starting with verse 16. It's really Mark's iteration of the passage we read in Matthew last week. Mark writes, as Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. What stands out to me in that passage is how it begins. As Jesus walked. Mark 2. Look at another passage. Mark 2, verse 13, it says, once again, Jesus went out beside the lake. A large crowd came to him, and he began to teach them. As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector's booth. Follow me, Jesus told him, and Levi got up and followed him. And again, what stands out to me about that text is he walked. So let's say in the same passage, Mark chapter 2, this time we'll skip down to verse 23. One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and as his disciples walked along, they began to pick some of the heads of grain. So if his disciples are walking and Jesus is walking with them, then we make the accurate assessment that he too is yet again walking. Or Luke 24. We come to that section where Luke is talking to us about the risen Christ, and he's telling the story of the two disciples on their way to Emmaus, when this stranger joins them. Luke says, now that same day, 2 of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. Seems like we can jump around in the Gospels and find evidence of the fact that he walked, he walked, he walked, he walked, and I spend my life running. There's a text I'm looking for. I haven't been able to find it. Now you might say to me, well, wait a minute. The world in which Jesus lived was dramatically different from our world. Totally different. And I'll grant you that is exactly the case. It was a different world. But I don't think that explains it all. I mean, I myself have lived in certain cultures growing up that had a greater emphasis on that lifestyle, on walking. 1 or 2 of the countries where I lived, we might go to the mechanic, el taller, and we might say to the mechanic, mi carro no anda. My car doesn't, literal translation, walk. I go to the mechanic here and I say to him, my car doesn't run. Wow. Says something about where we live. And while we're on mechanics, I used to change the oil in our cars, everything. It hasn't been years. It's been decades since I changed the oil in my own car because now I have somebody doing it while I'm working. I'm so busy running, I can't find time to jog. That's the reality of life, constantly moving, on the go. So when I think about apprenticeship, I need a text that matches my life. You can help me find it. It's only 3 words long, so it won't take a whole lot of effort to remember the text. It's just a matter of finding it. Here's the text I'm seeking. It's the text that says, and Jesus ran. That's the one. And Jesus ran. Because if he ran, then I can study the text. Mine it for what it has to say, study the context, and I can understand how I can be his apprentice by running with him. If he did it, I can do it. It matches my world. And Jesus ran. Maybe you can help me find it because I put a lot of time into it and I simply cannot find it there. It would help me. Now, it's not that running was unknown to Jesus in his life and ministry. There are passages that say this, the crowd ran to see Jesus. There's a passage describing Zacchaeus, the man small of stature and large of bad reputation, that says he ran and climbed a tree because he wanted to encounter Jesus. There's even that matchless story in Luke's gospel of the father waiting for the familiar figure to stumble down the lane toward home. And then it says the father got up and ran to embrace him. You say, that's the God figure. You're exactly right. God does run after us. He's running and running and running after us. But I hate to quibble about words. I still don't find a text that says, and Jesus ran. And it's not because he didn't have reason to. I mean, we tend to think he lived all the way back there, no stress, no pressure. Now we have it. I mean, we've got business meetings and board meetings and committee meetings and surgeries and cases at law and deadlines on the contract we're working on and all kinds of things. Well, it's true. That's why we run. But I mean, Jesus did have this little thing called saving the world. And he had some things to do as well. In fact, I want to give you what was for me a worthwhile insight into what some of Jesus' life looked like. We're back to Mark's gospel here. Just consider this what would be necessary in a person's life for this to happen. Mark chapter 3, verse 20. Then Jesus entered a house, and again a crowd gathered, so that he and his disciples were not even able to eat. When his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him, for they said, he's out of his mind. He's lost it. He's gone. He is so surrounded by crowds, so involved with people, so many demands being made on him, so much teaching. He can't even eat. He's lost it. We got to go get him. We got to save him from himself. I mean, I live a busy life. But unless my family's telling you something they haven't told me, they haven't quite yet gotten to the place where they look at me and say, you've lost it totally, completely. Jesus, he's lost it. We got to go save him. That's the stress and the intensity with which he lived his life. Everywhere he went, hounded by people. In fact, this very passage contains a word that is a common word in the story of Jesus, and it's the word crowd. Pay attention as you read the Gospels, time after time after time. Crowd, 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 crowd. Everywhere he went, demands. Well, he had reason to run. So the text has got to be there somewhere. I mean, he recognized that there was a need for margin, for boundaries. He knew that. He even tried to provide for that. So still in Mark's gospel, a few pages ahead in Mark chapter 6, I want you to listen to what happens on this occasion. This person of whom we're trying to find evidence that he ran and the quality of life he lived. Listen to this, verse 30 of chapter 6. The apostles gathered around to Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. They're coming back from their mission. Then, because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, we're back to that again. He said to them, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. He's saying we need some margin. We need some space. We need to set some boundaries. But you've read the story. You remember what happens next? The people scout out where they're headed, and by the time their boat lands at that shore, they're all there waiting for them. The entire crowd. Hi, Jesus. And here I will shop at grocery stores where I don't think I know anybody. And then I walk in and all of you are there. Hi, Randy. That's Jesus. Trying to create some boundary, trying to create some space, even saying that to his disciples. Impossible. So when I think about living the life of the apprentice in my world, if I can just find the text that says, and Jesus ran, then I can draw lessons from that text of how I can live the life of discipleship as I run. But I can't lay my hands on the text. Haven't been able to find it. So then I wonder, if I can't find that text, then what can I draw from Jesus' life? One of the things as you read his life that becomes evident is you begin to notice there are rhythms in his life. Rhythms of engagement and withdrawal. Rhythms of activity and rest. Luke's gospel is especially clear about this. But I actually want to read to you a passage from Mark's gospel again. Because it's just such a clear passage. I love it. So in that context of the kind of life we've just read about him living, verse 35 says, very in the morning, chapter 1, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, everyone's looking for you. Translation, Jesus, get engaged. It's all working. People are coming. They want to engage with you. What are you doing out here in the dark alone by yourself? What are you doing? Come. They're waiting for you. And the text says, he went out to a solitary place and prayed. It's a rather powerful statement. Because Jesus finishes that passage by saying, okay, Now let's go somewhere else. In other words, he's not on any person's or group's agenda. He's so in tune in his times of solitude and quiet with God that he stays attuned to the moving of the Holy Spirit in his life. Engagement, withdrawal. I want to read to you one more piece. May I have permission for one more quote from John Mark Comer? I just stand up here and read the book to you, but I've kind of edited this down. But listen to what Comer writes. I live in one of the most secular, progressive cities in America. But if you were to ask me what is the great challenge to your spiritual life in Portland, I'm not sure what I'd say. And then he gives a list of possibilities. How would you answer that question? I bet very few of us would default to hurry as our answer. But read the Bible. Satan doesn't show up as a demon with a pitchfork and gravelly smoker voice, or as Will Ferrell with an electric guitar and fire on Saturday Night Live. He's far more intelligent than we give him credit for. Today, you're far more likely to run into the enemy in the form of an alert on your phone while you're reading your Bible, or a multi-day Netflix binge, or a full-on dopamine addiction to Instagram, or a Saturday morning at the office, or another soccer game on Sunday, or commitment after commitment after commitment in a life of speed. Corrie ten Boom once said that if the devil can't make you sin, he'll make you busy. Both sin and busyness have the same effect. They cut off your connection to God, to other people, and even to your own soul. The famous psychologist Carl Jung had this little saying, hurry is not of the devil, hurry is the devil. I keep looking for that text, and Jesus ran. And I can't find it. But what I can find is that he lived a life of engagement and withdrawal. He lived a life of walking. I got to wondering, what if Jesus had been born in 21st century Southern California rather than in first century Palestine? Totally different worlds. And as I was pondering that, I had a very frightening thought. I thought, after reading the Gospels, I think I still would not find the text, and Jesus ran. Because hurry is poison to spiritual life. You cannot live the spiritual life in a healthy way if you constantly run. Rhythms, engagement, withdrawal. That was Jesus. So I was noticing in the video this morning, once I got past those rolls and those cookies, man, I was so hungry before I got up here. I looked at that and I said, thank you, Wendy. As I looked at that, couldn't you smell them, taste them? As I looked at that, I noticed something. She said, it has taken a long time. I saw her kneading. And I saw her putting the rolls in the oven to bake. She didn't turn the oven up to 1,250 degrees and try to bake them in 12 seconds. She didn't put the cinnamon rolls in the microwave. You know, you cannot microwave your relationship with Jesus. Just can't be done. So, if you happen to go home, and if somebody happens today to ask you the question, what was the text for the sermon today? I hope you'll tell them that I found it, finally, and here it is. And Jesus walked.